Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa. The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
Touchdown in Nairobi region. This is the Great Debaters Contest and I am Austin Yumbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Today we have Lenana High School going versus the Raila Educational Center, and they're debating on whether the primary responsibility of social and economic development is vested with the national government. We'll let the debaters take the stage now. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, being on my toes strongly tells you that greatly supporting the motion, which says that the primary responsibility for economic and social development is vested in the national government. The primary responsibility for economic, this entails the basic needs that the government is required to do, or the basic things that the government is supposed to do. While social development entails things like cultural activities, in example, sports, intermarriage, and so on. Okay, to my first point, I'd like to talk about job opportunities. Okay, the government has easy access, to loans from the wealthy countries like the USA, which can be used to venture into major projects that require large amount of money. And you know, this is that impossible to an individual. And the government is highly able to hire internationally qualified professions. Like, let's take an example, the Thika superhighway, which was constructed by the Chinese engineers. Okay, second, I'd like to talk about security. It's the basic role of the government to create security to its citizens and the investors. This is because when there is no security in a certain country, then the investors would not like to invest in such a country whereby there is insecurity. Okay, about social development, I would like to talk about cultural activities. You know, in some communities like Luo communities, the removal of the lower 6th teeth was done, and this was a sign to show that someone was changing from childhood to adulthood. Not only the Luo communities, but also some other communities like let's talk of the Mijikenda community, the Maasai, and so on. They believe that without circumcision, one was not considered as an adult. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes.
Attention all passengers aboard this flight. I will be your captain today. I would like you to remain seated as we fly into the horizons of insight and understanding. As I oppose the motion, the primary responsibility for social and economic economic development is vested on the national government. We will arrive at our destination in about 3 minutes. Please enjoy your flight. Now, there's this man called Gustave Le Bon. In his book, The Crowd, An Understanding of the Popular Mind, 1895, he rejected the rise of democracy and the idea that ordinary people could be trusted to make good collective judgments. He wrote, and I quote, "In crowds, it is stupidity that is collected." Now, we are here as a crowd. Are we accumulating stupidity? Mark he said that in crowds, it is stupidity that is accumulated. We are here as a crowd. Are we accumulating stupidity? To me, this was a confused mind, and I will tell you why. Recently, I read another book, Tribal Leadership. And in this book, people were divided into 5 different groups. Number 1, there was the lowest group in terms of social status. And in most cases, what you tell yourself will affect what you do. What do you tell yourself every day? Now, in that lowest status, People talk about my life sucks, and therefore they cannot work with others. They cannot embrace togetherness. And the best of the 5 tribes, the common language is we are great. And this is where we get great leaders. Take an example of Barack Obama, the United States of America president. In his presidential campaigns, he used the slogan, yes, we can. Yes, we can. That is what we call the we language. He talked to his people in the we language. Together. Together we stand, divided we fall. Now, come back to Kenya. We have for many years blindly gave the responsibility of effecting development in our country to the national government. And what are the results? The Anglo-leasing, the Goldenberg saga, the Eurobond saga, and the recent NYS saga. The list is actually endless. To me, I'd like to join my fellow global leaders in saying that we need to work together. Ladies and gentlemen, if we, the public, the private sector, and the non-governmental organization, and the national government came together, we will form a stronger economy and a better lifestyle for our people. I am Kiplagat Trevor from the Lenana School. Thank you.
We'll hear rebuttals now. Proposition, you have 3 minutes.
No one would be so kind enough to offer all what he or she has, not unless you're like Mother Teresa. And no one would employ so many people in one organization, not unless you're like Bill Gates. I am Miriam Shana from Raila Educational Center. I'm strongly supporting the motion that says the primary responsibility for economic and social development is vested in the national government. The sources of income for the government, let's take an instance, the Kenyan government. We have various sources. 1, foreign exchange. 2, taxes. And 3, Kenya is rich in agriculture. We can increase the exports and minimize the imports. Now, let's take an instance for the taxpayers. For a single business permit, the Kenyan government collects 100 shillings per day. That is equal to $1 a day, right? Now, if that $1 is calculated into 365 days, that's equal to $365, which is 36,500 shillings a year. Now, if that money is garnered and put for at least, let's say, 3 years, that will be so enough to build the roads we have here. Now, let's take an instance for the road in the Thika Superhighway. Once the Thika Superhighway was made, that is by the government, a very big, I think the largest in East Africa, a mall was built, the Garden City Mall. It's the largest so far, and I think that will increase the economy. Now, in co-curricular activities, we have music festivals, sports, and most of all, we have many things that bring us together, like this contest. I know the Great Debaters Contest is not held by the government, but there are still other contests that are held by the government. And we do not expect people like, let's say the individuals, they don't have enough resources to at least come up with contests. They don't have enough resources to at least build a hospital or create the music festivals where people can mingle around and minimize tribalism in this country. Now, I assume my fellow opposer, you said, Barack Obama said, yes, we can. And did you ever stop and think maybe he meant the government can? Because the government is not just made by one person, it's many people. And last but not least, I urge you, my fellow opposers, to at least join us in supporting this motion. Because with or without the government, because we need the government. There's no organization that runs without a government. Thank you.
We'll hear rebuttals now. Proposition, you have 3 minutes.
Now, when I was in class 5, I was a CEO. Why, you might wonder? You see, every time the headmaster walked into class, he'd simply say, Joroge, your company, staff room now. For this session, you can refer to me as Mr. Brian Juguna, but for your convenience, just call me Njoro, the CEO. Because for this session, I will not only be taking you through the melodramatics, the musical do-re-mis of social and economic development. Now, NGOs play a prominent role in developing our country, not only economically, but also socially. Now, this is put in plain black and white. We see various NGOs such as World Vision, Amnesty International, striving to empower locals by sponsoring their businesses, creating vocational training institutes, centers, where they impact skills to the locals. Now, I ask you a question. Is it better to give a man fish or give him a net? Ponder on that. Now, we not even look far. Just simply look beyond the walls of this hall. What do you see? A Safaricom banner. Now, Safaricom is a public limited company. Yes, I do agree that they do sell their shares to the public, but they're private. Now, Safaricom is sponsoring the Great Debaters in order for us to have a forum in which we can challenge each other mentally as students and also interact. Let's move on to religious organizations. Now, the youth in this country, more or less, have been, how will I put it, not well behaved. But do not worry, for religious organizations are actually countering that. They're seriously impacting moral values into the youth. Now, take an example. I am the CEO of my company. I receive my salary and simply get out of my building, into my car, and barely half a mile after driving, I'm attacked. Seriously. Is that seriously contributing to social development? Financial institutions. Take an example. Equity, Barclays, Cooperative Bank. These are institutions that are not only sponsoring, but are creating a way in which the needy students can actually get education. Thereby, they're eradicating illiteracy. If they eradicate illiteracy, what is left? The students they're sponsoring actually become literate. What happens when they become literate? It means that they will not only develop this nation socially, but economically, through the various things that they will be doing with the education that they acquire. Now, ladies and gentlemen, like I said in the beginning, wait a minute. Like I said in the beginning, I will take you through musical do-re-mis of economic and social development. Now, I might not have laid my hands on you, but I do believe you did dance to the tune of my music. Thank you.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register. The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
So the opposition have been asked how the private sector would help with economic and social development if they are not helped by the government. And the proposition have been challenged that with rampant corruption in the government, how can they fulfill their role of being the primary giver of social and economic development? We'll have them respond. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
Let me start by corruption. Let me ask you, today, when you go bribe a police officer, they're in town, then you expect a better Kenya tomorrow. You go back, you use the back way to get a degree. You still expect for truthful leaders tomorrow? Never. That will never happen. Corruption, it's up to you, individual. It's up to you to fight corruption. It's an individual part. To do with the ordinary people, okay. My opposition was saying that we should choose any ordinary person to run the government. Well, doesn't work that way. Let me just ask you something. How can you trust someone who goes there and plucks a whole railway line and still just tell him to come to the government? Leaders have integrities. Leaders have skills. Don't just choose any ordinary person. And leaders are chosen by you individuals. So don't complain about anything to do with their ordinary people being chosen as leaders. That's not making sense. And another thing, as you all know, your fathers, each end month, your fathers go outside their Times Tower to pay their monthly taxes. Why do they do that? That's part of their work. That's part of their being a citizen. It's part of them to pay their taxes. That's their right. That's supporting the government, their government. The government is for the people. The government is the one who speaks for the people. Paying of the tax is just part of them. It's a right. And let me ask you something. To do the security, when an Al-Shabaab group comes and breaks down all the silence in a hall or wherever, a bank or wherever they're going, let me ask you something. Where will you put the blame on? Security. Serikali ifanye kazi yao. Let me tell you something. The security starts with you. How many Al-Shabaab suspects have been brought up in the news? How many of them? You're living with the Al-Shabaab yourselves. The Al-Shabaabs are you individuals themselves. So it's up to you to make a better Kenya for your own selves. United we stand, forever alive in God. Amen.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
Just like the tune, we started from the bottom, and now here we are. My name is Austin Osumba, from the Lenana School. Well, in its report that was updated on 21st October 2015, the World Bank clearly states that Kenya, in its first quarter in the financial year, had an upgrade of 4.9% in its economy. Do you know why? Because of the immense and the effective cooperation between the public and the private sector. Do you still want to know why the United Nations in its charter still encourage its members to use the cooperation between the public and the private sectors? Well, that is sense, and sense it is. Take it as it is. First speaker, you talk about falling of the lower teeth of the people from Luo. Well, did the government initiated that project? Job opportunities, debating so much about that. If you look at statistics from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, it says that the public and private sector, among the mega mines in Kenya that provide employment opportunities and upgrade the living standards of our citizens. Speaker number 2, you made my day, but then still at the end of the day, thank you. Was Mother Teresa, whose kindness is overwhelming, part of the government? Was she part of the Indian government? Mother Teresa is like an individual Kenyan citizen. Mother Teresa is not a government. Mother Teresa forms part of the public dominion. And that's why, if you still talk about the Garden City Mall and other projects, I still want to ask the audience, have you ever heard of any mall built by the government? No. To respond to the questions, Equity Bank is not given the mandate to build roads in Kenya. We are all famous about this story of Serikali Nisaidie Tafadhali. The same woman was the only woman who made the government realize that the people of Nyando constituency in Kisumu County have a problem. But then still, the public and the private corporation went to the same place and did corporate social responsibility. Safaricom, as if that was not enough, he used the same lady to advertise the Store Bonus campaign that melted the hearts of Kenyans away, to just call your loved one at a free rate. And on the same note, if common sense, reasoning, and reassurance are to be kept as constant factors in this debate, then the government cannot be solely relied upon to provide social and economic development.
Final statements now. Proposers, you have a minute.
In conclusion, I'd like to conclude by saying Each plane has its pilot. Each bus has its driver. And every citizen is led by a government. You wouldn't go anywhere without the government. If you are to build those roads, you have to start by first involving the government. Now, the third opposer, next time I believe you have to listen to what I said. I said, no person would be kind enough if not like Mother Teresa. And no person would be kind or would have that much money to at least cater for 1,000 people if you not Bill Gates. Now, the rest of the group, decide for yourself. Will you depend on yourself with the economy you're living in today? Or will you depend on the government, a government you put in place?
Opposition, you have a minute.
I'm back again, ladies and gentlemen, but not to sing a song. I only have 3 statements. First, there's a saying in the States that goes, think and become rich, but I believe when it traversed and crossed the oceans and seas, it not only changed in meaning but wording, and came to Africa and became think and have social and economic development. Second, to my fellow opposers, what a debate. The application forms for my company are free. Feel free to join. And thirdly, thank you for the debaters, for the Great Debaters Contest, for providing a forum in which we can not only broaden our minds, but also learn. Thank you.
Nelly, you started off very well. I mean, you're a strong speaker when you start over. I like the examples that you gave in terms of security as an example of why the national government takes responsibility and that we cannot have sustainable development in terms of economic and social without security being a key source of it. Miriam as well, you came and picked up very well. You know, a good attempt when you even gave the example of the $1 a day, you know, calculating us and telling us, you know what, we can build more infrastructure, which is directly proportional to the growth of our economy and social. Ali, you're a great speaker. And I think, you know, with much work now on content, all right, adding more content on your skill of speaking, you can make a great debater, all right? So I want to see a better Ali the next time, with more content as well. All across the teams, you gave your best and we are proud of you. All the best.
For the opposers, this responsibility should not be vested in the national government, then should it be vested in the devolved system of government? You know, because that then would be the other interested party in this. When you read a motion, ask yourself, if you're on the other side, what else is expected of me? And in a country such as this, you know, in this dispensation, there's always been the debate between what's the responsibility of the national government, what's the responsibility of the devolved government. So for me, that was the missing link, and I got the impression that, you know, both the teams were struggling through the motion and connecting whatever submissions you were making to the motion was a tall order for the two teams. All the best.
Raila Education Center, the judges saw it fit to award you with 62%. Please give them a round. Lenana School, the judges gave you 70%, making you the winners of this debate.
Congratulations to the two teams, and we'd like to thank you, our audience, for being very active and participative, and our viewers back home, thank you for watching. Kindly follow us on our social media platforms at Great Debaters EA for Twitter. I have been Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. We'll see you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register. Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.